No doubt. Appreciate you blessing us with that
All day, man.
freestyle
We might get in
earlier.
another one later. I know there's only a few people in here, so
Yeah,
you know.
they got a sticker.
Nels, Sean, what's up? What's up?
So
What's up, family?
Pistons, I have Vex Vortex with me this evening. We want to talk about 2023, but before we do that, let's go back in time. For those who may not be know about you, tell me where
Oh
you were born and
wow,
raised.
I'm a military brat. So I was actually born in Fairbanks, Alaska, at the North Pole. So technically, you could call me the Black Santa Claus, I guess. I'm not a native Alaskan, but my father was drafted into the army to go to Vietnam. So he got drafted. He went there in 1969. I was born in '73, the year hip hop was born. So I was kind of born into this culture and into this, this way of life and into the knowledge that is bestowed upon us. So I was born in Alaska. I only stayed there till I was maybe 3 or 4 years old. Then we moved again. And then we moved the next 3 years we moved, and the next 3 years after that we moved. So from the time I was born to the time I was 18, I was kind of like moving around from army base to army base. And that included Fort Meade, Maryland, Fulda, Germany, which is the base that was basically closest to the Berlin Wall when the wall was up. Fort Hamilton, Brooklyn, and a few other places too. So I'm kind of like a traveler. Once I got into the industry, we toured all the cities in the state, and we went to Canada, toured all the cities in Canada. So, yeah, I'm just from everywhere in a way, but my place of origin is Fairbanks, Alaska. So, yeah, Eskimo MC.
No doubt. Spend your teenage
Um,
years
it
at.
was split. I was here in Fort Meade, Maryland, which was really my strongest and first exposure to hip hop. Then we went to Germany, and I was stationed in Germany, where I was attending Fulda America High School, which is sort of like a middle school and a high school combined. Shaq went to my school, Shaquille O'Neal, where he like picked up basketball. He got with some of my classmates, and they kind of like put him up on the game some more, and he was out there like going all Europe and doing big things back then. So it was a real experience doing that. And then once we moved from Germany, I ended up in Fort Hamilton, Brooklyn. So on the first day of school there, guess who I meet? Lee from the Bush Babies. Yeah, Lee Majors. He's sitting
Major.
right on the steps next to me, like the first day of school. So we just started asking each other questions, and it turns out years and years later, his group, the Bush Babies, get signed right around the time Boogie Monsters got signed, and we came out, and we sort of had a break in contact there, and then that brought us back together after doing some talent shows and stuff like that at high school, and really like getting a good taste of Brooklyn hip hop, and we got a chance to do some more stuff, later on. Recently, we did a single together for one of my albums or whatever. So yeah, that's one of my good peoples as well.
So, at what point did you start taking writing real serious? So, was that your first foray into hip hop, or did you DJ first? What was first for Vex
I was always
getting
into
into hip
art.
hop?
So before hip hop really got, big, popular enough where I could hear it, I was into like drawing, painting. That was my focal point in middle school, high school was fine arts and commercial art. So I was always into drawing. I guess you could say graffiti and letters and all of that kind of took hold of me first. But then when I was living on Fort Meade, they had a radio station, which is an AM station called WEDD. WEDD was partially founded and owned by James Brown. So they would play black music on this station. And all of a sudden, they started dropping these records with a sound we never heard before. So they would play like Rappers Delight, UTFO, Roxanne Shante, and Real Roxanne, and Sparky D, that whole thing. There was an MC who was huge here in Maryland at the time named Haji Rock. They would play Haji Rock, TLA Rock, UTFO, like I said, and all that just really inspired me. Africa Bambaataa, the Soul Sonic Force. So I got a brother that's a little bit younger than me. He's like 4 years younger than me. So we became a crew. We would go out with our little linoleum tile and go to the functions of breakdance and put people on to what we were learning. We were already sharing it, and kind of like spreading the culture out. And at the time, they were having like a lot of breakdance contests and like, show outs in the state of Maryland before I went to Germany. So when I to Germany, it was sort of like it was going on there too, but because we were so far away from the States, it was kind of like translated through cassette tapes and word of mouth, and people going to concerts and shows that would actually be in Europe at the time. When I was there, it was like Run DMC and Beastie Boys were touring. I had a chance to see them on tour as a kid, as a little one. Like, they took us along. So that was really where it was at and where I got, encapsulated with it. My dad actually helped me write my first rhyme when I was 9 years old. And he was like, well, it seems like it's a bit of poetry and it's a little bit of like soul music there, and they're doing some of this. I don't really know too much about this, Sean, but let's see what we can do. You know what I mean? So let me see if I can remember the rhyme. How does it go? State and interest has hit the sky, and if you don't have money, you just don't buy. Kids in school, I don't know about those creatures. All of a sudden, they want to shoot the teachers. This world is going mad, and when you really think about it, it looks so sad. That was way back then. It's kind of relevant now that I'm reciting it. It's still relevant now. But yeah, he helped me like jot that down, that initial few bars. There was some more to it that I can't recall, but after that, it just kind of just stayed with me. So when he went to Vietnam, or sometime between Vietnam and Alaska, I guess he became a DJ. So he had a bunch of records, Pendergrass, Marvin Gaye, Isley Brothers. He's a pastor now, so I don't want to talk about his, past life too much, but he was a DJ. He skimmed a lot of records, so I got a chance to dig in his records. And what I would do is I would kind of like collect the equipment he would get rid of on the side, double cassette deck, a turntable. I go to the pawn shop and find something here, find something there. So I had a little system set up in my room. So I would take the records. I had one of those cassette decks that would allow you to record from the vinyl, you know what I mean? So I just make loops. So like the first few bars of Barry White, or some of the breaks and some of the records I could find, I would go to the record store, try to find breaks and stuff like that, and just create loops on the double cassette deck. And that would be the ability to like go ahead and write out the song. Then I would have like a little headphone joint, or a little, cheap microphone that plugs into the system where I could rhyme over this loop. So that was my first go at like really trying to MC and craft my styles, my rhymes, find out who I was, intellectually, what cadence is, what delivery is. And I learned from the best of the best, the greats, the first people to ever do it. LL, Run DMC, Rakim, TLA Rock. The list goes on. I don't want to forget anybody, you know what I mean? Because it progressed as years went on. But yeah, that's how I got into it. 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old. It really became an obsession. So much to the point, one day my dad was like, come outside and get the weed trimmer and trim the edges of the grass. So I'm in there working on some song. And he just came in and was like, broke the record or whatever. I'm like, Pop, yeah. Like, yo, you're just too focused on that right now. I need you to come out here and do this, you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I was really heavily into it as a youngster. Right. And it just sort of stuck with me through high school and then in the college where I met the other guys and created the group.
Gotcha. Before forming the Boogie Monsters, were you in any crews before them, or was you solo up until that point?
Squads. Like I said, me and my brother, we would break together. Me and this other cat named Gil, we created a crew back in the day called the Boogie Boys. Now there's a hip hop group called the Boogie Boys, but it was unrelated. I was pretty much a soloist, but I had friends that were also into it too. Like when I was over in Germany, my pen name was DKA Def, better known as Def or whatever. And my friend Greg B, he would sort of like be there for me to like bounce off of and be a sounding board for what I was doing at the time. So back then and during that era, the big thing was like the printed sweatshirts with the letters. So, we just had our little crew sweatshirts. We would come to school like doing our thing, like, being completely hip hop. And so was everybody else at the school pretty much, I remember days people would bring a boombox and play stuff that we hadn't heard, like, for instance, Lottie Dottie. The first time I heard that was at high school on a boombox in Germany. Someone played it, and we were just like, whoa, there's no drums, there's no nothing. He's just beatboxing, and they killed it, you know what I mean? So those were my first experiences. But yeah, wasn't in any other real official hip-hop groups, I would say, but more or less just rolling with friends. Other people were in the culture as well. Then when I met Al and Sean, which was in Virginia, after I left Brooklyn, you know, my family, my dad retired out of the Army, went to Virginia, and their parents just happened to move from Long Island to the very same town of Virginia. So we met in like junior, senior year of high school at that point. And they were into the same thing. So originally the group was Vex and the Boogie Monsters because they were more like a scoop and scrap. If you watch the Recognize Thresholds videos, you see like some acrobatics, and they were actually really nice with dancing. Like we would go to ciphers and these dudes would kill it. Like they were nice with, you know, just b-boying, you know. But as we got into recording, they wanted to try to hand the MCing, so that sort of changed the balance of the group. But we did become Boogie Monsters in college. Us three sort of went to Virginia State, and we took that with us, and we met Mondo while we were trying to like get our money up and record demos and stuff. And he was in a completely different group called Hit MCs. So in order for us to make it work and have enough money to get our demos and do the shows that we wanted to do at the time, we sort of had to pool our dollars as well as pool the groups. So he became a part of our group, and that's when it really became the Boogie Monsters or Boogie Monsters. Yeah.